Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Sisters of a Certain Age, Conversations with a Therapist
and a doctor.
I'm your co-host, Judy Grant, licensed marriage and family therapist.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Sophia Grant, board-certified pediatrician and board-certified child abuse pediatrician.
So, Candy, I'm thinking next week at this time, we are gallivanting around Manhattan.
Yeah, we'll be in the theater district. I'm performing my one-woman show.
Right.
I wish, but since I can't sing and I can't dance, we just decided a sister trip to New York will be great, and we're gonna be seeing my friend's daughter, who is starring on Broadway in And Juliet. It will be the second time, and I loved it so much I decided Judy needed to see it.
Yeah.
And then we'll be catching some other shows as well, and using our winter clothing. And...
Yes. We're also going to visit with a former guest, our cousin Karen Williams.
Yes.
So looking forward to seeing Karen.
She was on the anti-aging
yes.
podcast episode.
Yes, yeah. So, and I really want to go down to NYU and check out, my old stomping ground. So it's gonna be a good time, and believe me, we'll tell you all about it when we get back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just want to call attention to the fact that I gave Judy a sweater.
Oh yes.
And she looks quite fetching.
It's so like sparkly and pretty.
Yeah. The funny thing about that sweater is, after the husband left, and I was so distraught. I did some retail therapy. I was so distraught. I paid full price. And I am
clearly you were not in your right mind.
I wasn't in my right mind.
No.
I am a sale rat girly. So Judy, you got that. That's full price.
Full price sweater.
And it's a pretty sweater. Yeah.
Yeah. It feels holiday like, but I'm thinking, why do I need to save it for the holidays? It's just pretty.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right. So, Candy, go for it.
I said this brings me to a topic. We are talking about lessons I have learned and life hacks and things like that. And I have a list of lessons learned that I jotted down. And one of them is always go to the sale rack. That's one of my things I do as a mother, I always like to get a deal. I go to the back of the store before I even fall in love with anything at the front. Let me see if I can fall in love with something in the back.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're going to be talking about other stuff. So that's one of the lessons I've learned. Okay. Judy, let's just go back and forth.
Okay. So a lesson learned. It's never too late to apologize. It's like something might have happened yesterday, something might have happened 2 years ago. But if you go back to that person and you're there to apologize and you're sincere about it, regardless of the time that has passed, I think people are really appreciative of that. Like, wow, you've been thinking about this. You wanted to come back to me with that. And I think that is... It's important. And I think it's important for us as the person doing the apologizing to recognize, like, wait, I screwed that up. Right. And I never said anything. I need to rectify this. I need to bring this to some sort of closure.
Right. And apologize to your kids.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
My kids, I've asked my kids for forgiveness many times. And most of the time they're like, it's okay, Mommy. I wasn't thinking about it. And you feel worse than they do. Yeah. But apologize to your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. And Lord knows that I have done that because,
we make mistakes.
I'm not perfect, which leads me to another lesson learned. But Candy, you go next. I'll get back to mine.
All right. Judy and I, we've talked about how we are afraid of snakes. And many years ago, my kids were in elementary school and the reptile guy was coming to class and you had to pay $6 for the reptile guy. No. And I didn't pay the money. And the day before the reptile guy came, I got a phone call asking for the money. I said, oh, my children will not be participating in the reptile guy because no, I'm not allowing. And they said everybody has to. So I sent at that time $12, six for each kid. And I gave my kids this, like, don't touch those snakes. They are reptiles. They're full of salmonella. They're disgusting. Don't touch the snakes. So they went to school, came back. How was the reptile guy? Fine. Did you touch anything? No. The yearbook comes out. I see my son, a picture with a snake coiled around his neck. I see my daughter with like an iguana lizard in her lap. And I laughed to myself because I was transferring my fear to them. Thank God they didn't listen. And that was it wasn't an immediate lesson. It wasn't until if the yearbook had not come out, I would have felt completely justified in telling my kids what I told them.
Right.
But I learned not to transfer my fears to my kids. That was a biggie. That's like one of the top two.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I remember when the reptile guy came to school. I remember that clearly. But yeah, I think we often will transfer our fears to our children, and then we're putting whatever concerns, fears, anxieties onto them unnecessarily. Let them figure it out themselves.
Right. And then you transfer fear, you also transfer your prejudice. That's how you teach hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Like clearly my children know how afraid I am of snakes. They might not like them, but they don't fear them the way that I do. And Lord knows Maya and Grayson will like touch them and all of that stuff. I just don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. But don't let my fear be yours. Okay, lesson learned. I mean, this is going to kind of sound a little ridiculous because it seems obvious, but that fear of perfection and having to.
What do you mean fear of?
Okay, so here. I'm thinking back to graduate school, and I'm thinking of, for whatever reason, I got it into my head that I had to have straight A's through graduate school. And I remember one day very clearly in the car with the kids, and I think I was complaining that I got like a 97% on some test paper. And they're like, Mommy, isn't that an A? And it's like, yeah, it is. And I think I had kind of put this expectation on myself to be perfect in school. And I didn't need to do that to myself.
Yeah.
So the lesson learned there is that I can be good enough.
Right.
And get by. I don't have to have straight A's. I don't have to, be at the tippy top of the scale. I just need to be good enough. And that's something else that I learned when I started working in this field is with all of the documentation, I tried to be very comprehensive in my notes. And my supervisor then said, you just need to be good enough.
Yeah, you're doing too much. Yeah.
Doing too much. So that was a lesson that I learned and a lesson that I try to share with other people.
And that will contribute to burnout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then the thing is, had your kids brought home a 97%, you wouldn't have said, what happened to the other 3%? You would not have said that.
No.
You would have been like, oh, that's wonderful.
Over the moon proud.
Yeah.
So they checked me in that moment, and I'm appreciative of that. Yeah. Just good enough. Good enough.
Yeah. Now another lesson is, for many years I used to serve as a camp physician at a camp for kids who had complicated medical histories. As part of a perk, I could take my own kids and they could be campers.
Right.
So one time Yaya was there and she was up on the ropes. She was tethered and she was going to like walk a tight wire. and she had the helmet, the rope, she was harnessed, and I was there, and because I was serving as a doctor for that activity. And Yaya's face was just stricken with fear. She was terrified. And I had to fight every instinct in my body to say, it's okay, Yaya, you don't have to do that. Calm down. And I knew she was safe, but it went against everything in me to not save her.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, she did it even though she was scared. And afterwards, she felt so proud of herself. She was about 7 or 6 years old, and she had the biggest smile on her face. And that lesson was immediate, because I was like, wait a second. I can't block every obstacle for my kids because it's going to be difficult or uncomfortable. And I think that kind of reinforced my parenting style, is just like, figure it out and then tell me. But I was really glad that I didn't save her, because she never would have experienced the joy of doing that thing on her own.
Right. And she might have thought, gosh, I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
And she might think she's was incapable of doing it. So that fighting that urge of being a bulldozer to mow down obstacles, I wasn't a bulldozer, I wasn't a helicopter, I don't know what you call me, but she figured it out and she achieved it. And that was a huge lesson for me as a parent.
Yeah. Just the other day I was talking to Grayson about, like, it's my job to protect you, right? And he's like, but then I would never do anything.
Yeah.
Right? Because I would be so scared of him doing this activity or doing that, or jumping out of a plane, or that he would not get to experience it.
Yeah.
So you're right, because I'm like, I'm just trying to protect you. And he's like, no, it becomes something else.
Grayson, I've called Grayson a bouncer for years.
Oh yeah.
Grayson, when the kids took a cousin picture, he looked like he could protect everybody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, Grayson can protect you.
As a matter of fact.
That's the thing.
Yes. As a matter of fact, super sweet. This is some months ago, we're at Target, and outside of Target, a gentleman was like collecting signatures for some petition. So I went over to find out what it was, and Gray took the cart and unloaded the car and what have you. And then I start walking to the car, and he comes and he gets me, and he's like, I don't like you walking in the parking lot.
The parking lot by yourself.
By yourself.
Yeah. Tables are turned.
They have. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. But yes, yeah, he is now protecting me. Okay. Okay, so my other lesson learned, going back to this notion of perfection, there are no perfect parents. You're not a perfect mom. You're not a perfect father or grandmother or caregiver or what have you. And recognizing that you do not need to strive to be perfect, because I don't even know what that would look like. Because your kids, they just need your love, your attention, your support, your nurturing, and they think you hung the moon. So why are we killing ourselves to do so much more? I see on Instagram or wherever, super cute lunches that parents make, where the
bento box,
everything
cut out with a heart,
and the kiwi is in the star, and the sandwich is a heart, and the this and the that, and everything is so cute. I'm like, yeah, for the kid to open it and they're going to be smiling and thinking it's nice, but who has the time for that?
Yeah. Well,
And I see that thing,
yeah.
and it just kind of stresses me out. And I'm thinking, I'm glad I'm past that stage in my children's lives where they just got their sandwich and they were happy for the sandwich.
Yeah. Now, I will ask you this. How old were your kids when you stopped making their lunches?
Oh yeah, you laugh at me about that one.
Yeah.
Definitely through middle school, um, maybe even freshman year of high school.
Okay, I stopped in kindergarten.
Yep.
And guess what? They never starved. Now, occasionally I would do the lunch thing as a like special treat, and they loved it. And I would put a note in, but I did not have it in me to make lunches for all three kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were making their lunches. And one time I picked Yaya up from school and I
I know
smelled
what
the
you're
smell.
gonna
Like, Yaya, what is that?
say.
And she said, rice and peas and curry goat. I'm like, you took curry goat to school? Yeah, in my thermos.
Oh my
So
gosh.
instead of sending a PB&J, Yaya took rice and peas and curry goat. And then I had to eventually get her, I called it the old man thermos. The
Yes, yes.
the insulated thermos where things stay hot and it has you drink the soup from. I mean, she was like an old person, and that's what she would do. Yeah.
But then even like you didn't have the bandwidth, that then created like this independence, you
Hmm.
know, in her. So
Yeah.
it yeah, yeah. So
Yeah. And I didn't feel bad about not making the kids lunches because I'm like, yeah, you got to do, you got to feed
no.
yourself, pick what you want. I remember I used to have lunch with a girl who every day would throw away the sandwich her mother made.
Oh
Every day.
gosh.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Oh
as an immigrant, I'm like, you're throwing away food? Like, I could not even believe. Can you imagine mommy's making food for us and
no.
we're throwing it
No.
away?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
Yeah,
not. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So,
All right. So
okay.
no perfect parent.
Yes. Oh, another lesson. In friendships, you shouldn't have to pursue a friendship. It should be mutual. So
Mhm.
if you are friends with somebody and you're the one pursuing all the time and they're never reaching out, and I have this expression, they're making you feel like a groupie in the relationship, always clinging to something,
Mhm.
then they're not your friend.
Right.
And let it go. And I've done that a few times. And the thing is, when I feel like I'm pursuing, and then the ball's in your court, the ball was never returned.
Right.
So were they really friends with me?
Yeah.
And the first time it happened, it hurts your feelings, but then it's just like I have a life, and you need to go where you're cherished and wanted and nourished and cared for.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, you coined that term for me, like I'm
Hmm.
nobody's groupie. I
Yeah.
have used it so much. I have also used it with my children.
Hmm.
Like when they're having hiccups in their friendships, I'm like, you don't need to keep putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
right? Um, I honestly used it like 4 or 5 days ago.
Really.
Yeah, with one of them. So yes, with friendships, but also in those in those more intimate relationships. If
Yeah.
you find yourself like, oh my gosh, I like this person so much, and then you're reaching out and you're calling and you're texting and now you're DMing on whatever platform, and that person isn't reciprocating, you gotta stop,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
because you do not want to make yourself so available that then somebody takes advantage of that.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So no groupies. Um, lesson learned. we all know about red flags in relationships, but I've been saying for a number of years that there are also pink flags, and the pink flags eventually turn red. Lesson learned, acknowledge the pink flag because it
Mm-hmm.
will turn red, you
Yeah.
know, and that can save you a whole lot of heartache down the road if you just paid attention to those pink flags. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so my children's father, there were a lot of pink flags. I was young and dumb and they were just pink, so I really didn't think too much of them. But those things eventually turned into like flaming red flags. Um, and had I had the wherewithal to acknowledge them when they were pink, perhaps I would not have allowed myself to get into the situation that I did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead.
no, go for it.
I'm going to piggyback onto that. Um, if you are with somebody and the people in your life who love you the most and have cared for you your entire life points out that they don't think this person is a good person, or
Mm,
is pointing out the so-called pink flags, you have to ask yourself, why at this point would they not want to see me happy? Why at this point would they be giving me bad counsel? When people who love you and have supported you point something out, consider it rather than discount it.
hmm
That's a good lesson.
Right. And you always hear like, don't kill the messenger, right? Because people will get
Mm-hmm.
angry like when you show up and you tell them something that they don't necessarily want to hear. But the messenger has your best intention at heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? they
Yeah.
they want what's best for you. So, or wait, don't shoot the messenger. So be mindful
Mm-hmm.
of the messenger because they're not trying to um, do anything devious. They're just looking out for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. What was your next lesson?
Um, oh, this is a good one. Um, I've pat on the back. I've educated three college educated three kids now. College is expensive. Um, your kid may want to go to a school that's very expensive. If you can't afford it,
Mm,
you cannot afford it.
don't send them.
Set the expectations. When Yaya was applying to college, she wanted to go to a school that cost at the time $85,000 a year. I knew I couldn't afford it. So she didn't think she would get in. I knew she would get in. She got in. She did not get any financial aid. And they told her, well, we can offer you X amount. And she said, that's still not enough. And they offered more money. I still couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
But because I had set the expectations way back when she was applying and I told her I couldn't afford it, there was no disappointment.
Right.
And so she ended up going to a school that I could afford, where she did not have to take out any student loans. And there was no disappointment. She thrived. And that is a lesson that, like, set expectation. You don't want to wait till they have the acceptance letter and they're so excited to be to be going to have that conversation. You tell
Right.
them beforehand, so it's not this letdown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So lesson there is to share with your college bound kids what you can and cannot do.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they get into their dream school. That's wonderful. We can't afford the dream school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. Um, Lesson learned. just because people say they're your friend does not entitle them to mistreat you. Um, and I think oftentimes you'll hear, well, I'm your friend, so I can tell you this. I can say this to you. I can speak poorly of you because, I'm your friend. And you kind of feel like you're being gaslit. Like, wait, what's going on here? They're saying they're my friend, but they are doing this or that behind my back, or you don't feel really great in their company. That is not a friend. If your friend is speaking ill of you or speaking down to you or whatever, in any way that they might make you feel uncomfortable, that's not a friend. You need to cut that loose.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see. Oh, um, this I wrote here, love through the hard times. Um, my son, and I've mentioned this before, he went through a period of depression and he was kind of rebellious and he was angry and he was a lot of things and he was unkind and callous toward me. And I would linger in my office so I wouldn't have to come home to face the tyrant that he had become. I didn't really care for him too much, but I still loved him.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, within the past year, we were reflecting on that. And he said, even though he was, acting out and doing all of these things, he knew that I loved him. He knew that my goal was to keep him happy and safe. And
Mm-hmm.
he said that helped him get through all of that because even though he was being difficult, he knew that love was constant and unchanging. So, I mean, it's not anything that I had to learn that, but I discovered how important it is for kids to know that you love them no matter what. Know that your love is unconditional, not
Mm-hmm.
just with your words, but with your actions. Um,
Regardless of what they
so,
do.
right, right. And, that was a good thing. And had he not told me, I don't think I would have recognized that he saw me loving him through that process. Because one time I told him, I am your biggest cheerleader. I want the best for you. I I'm going to, and he looked at me like I had horns. Like it was the strangest thing. And I'm like, why is he looking at me like that? But at the time he didn't think it was true. But and then the past year he said he knew that I loved him. So love them through addiction, love them through poor grades, love them through that unexpected pregnancy. You just love, 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 love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember Zachary said when he was little, like, would you love me? Go
If I
ahead and
went to
tell it.
jail,
If I went to
like
jail.
yeah, he was trying to test, like, at what point would I stop loving him? Would
Mm-hmm.
you love me if I weren't smart? Would you love me if I was mean to my sister? Would you love me? And then the biggest thing he could think of, would you love me if I went to jail? And I said,
Right.
yes. He said, really? I said, yes. And he was slowly grasping unconditional love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How old was he?
He was about 6 or 7.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that. Okay. Um, oh, a lesson I learned. I really tried hard to not speak poorly of the children's father in their presence. Believe me, I had all sorts of feelings, but I really tried hard not to do that so they could hear. And what I realized is you never need to do that with your kids. your kids grow up and they recognize the limitations of their parents on their own without you ever having to say a word.
Yep.
Right? So they know who he is. I didn't have to tell them. They know who I am. And they also know my limitations, right? Your children are smarter than we think, and they recognize, they don't necessarily articulate it. They recognize where, well, mommy isn't the best at this, and that's okay. You know? So you don't ever want to speak ill of your children's other parent that you might not be with. They will figure it out for themselves.
Yep.
And you will be there when they come to you and they say, mommy, such and such. I know, sweetie. And let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you send your kids away, they aren't away. They're just out of the house. FaceTime them. Before the invention of FaceTime, and I think when I sent Haley off to college, I don't think there was FaceTime. I can't remember. But she was in LA. So I sent her to college in LA. Grandma, cousins, aunts, uncles were here. But keep an eye on your kids. When you have these young adults, they don't turn 18 and magically become an adult. The frontal lobe isn't developed.
No.
So if you can't physically see your kids, find somebody, a stand-in, who can look at your kids and say, she doesn't look well. You know, we have a cousin who was sent to college and then joined a cult. And then the mother had to step in and kind of move into her dorm and things like that. But you always need to get a good look at your kids to make sure they are well, make sure they are eating, make sure they don't look sick. Right. You have to have eyes on your kids.
Yeah. And I'm thinking back to when mommy and daddy wouldn't let you go to Berkeley because they thought you would join a cult.
Oh, and become a heroin addict.
Right.
Don't forget that one.
So maybe in 1985, 84, if they had had FaceTime, they would have felt a little bit more comfortable.
I don't think they would have let me. I still don't think so. So, yeah.
Berkeley had a reputation.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too funny. Yeah. Okay. So this might feel a little bit more shallow. But why are we killing ourselves to try to squeeze into those clothes that have been in our closet that we know don't fit? And we keep them there thinking, oh, if I only lose 4 pounds, if I only lose 10 pounds, I'll fit into that. And creating that extra layer of pressure and anxiety around how you feel in your body. And I think like we need to do away with that. And I've talked to Candy about the fact that like I got rid of some things. I'm like, I'm never going to fit into these things again. Why am I holding on to them?
Right.
And it's like this reminder of, oh, you were once this size, but you're not anymore. So why are we doing that to ourselves? So get rid of those things. It doesn't serve you. Get the clothes that fit you. And who gives a rat's ass if it's a bigger size? Does it fit you? Do you look good in it? Do you feel good in it? And if you answer yes to those questions, then get that piece in that size.
And that's the reason Judy has that sweater. Because when the husband left and I wasn't eating and I lost weight, I bought that sweater full price. But now when I put it on, it has that gap right here. So, and I hung on to it because it's a beautiful sweater.
And you paid full price.
So now it has a home in my sister's closet, which is perfect since you just cleaned out some of your stuff.
I did do some purging and I took out things. I'm like, I'm never going to wear these jeans again.
Right.
Why am I trying?
Yeah.
So do yourselves a favor. Just wear what fits.
Yeah. This is a practice, is like a life lesson, but it's a hack.
Okay.
Taught to us by our mother. If you are cooking and you have a lot of stuff you're cooking, take out the platters and put a little note in the platters so you know what is going where.
Yes.
That mommy started doing that, I don't know how many years ago, but before Thanksgiving, she would take out the platter. She'd say rice and peas, plantain, chicken, whatever. And so if you have anybody who's helping you, they can find the platter and see where it goes. So you don't have to be directing all the time. But that is like a little hack mommy taught. Do you do that?
I have done that, but what I do is I always make a list of my dishes that I'm prepping, and I will pull out the platters. I don't know that I label the platter, but I know what's going where.
Yeah. No, I will put the name in that.
Yeah. Wow.
What else, Judy? What else you got?
You got me thinking about life hacks and like kitchen things. Shred your cheese yourself. Use the brick.
Oh, don't buy the
shredded cheese. And
yeah,
honestly,
it's gross.
For the longest time, because back when we were kids and we'd make macaroni and cheese and mommy would get the 2-pound brick and I'd be shredding for like what felt like forever. After a while, I was like, wait, there's shredded cheese. I can just dump the shredded cheese. And I did that for several years. I'm not going to lie. And I started thinking about like what's on the cheese. That the cheese is coated. It's something's done to it.
Stabilizers and
and it's not as creamy.
As an aside, that's how Judy stopped sucking her thumb.
Right. Okay.
Because
life hack, grate your thumb.
She nicked her thumb while grating cheese for macro, and she couldn't suck it anymore. And that's how you stop.
And it was compounded by the fact I had a Band-Aid on it, tasted bad. And then I was riding my bicycle right when this was beginning to heal. And I bumped into a tree, which scraped it again. So I had Band-Aid on from that. So between the grating of my thumb and the bike accident, stop sucking my thumb. So the lesson learned is wrap your kid's finger in a Band-Aid for 2 weeks and they'll be done.
Right. Let me see. Another lesson learned. And Maya Angelou said this. Believe people when they tell you who they are.
Amen.
Believe people when they tell you who they are. Because when I met the husband, one of our first conversations that we had is that he wanted to be a Rastafarian when he was growing up. And his father said he didn't want to, you can't be that in my house, whatever. And I thought, this is just some like childish thing. And that's what he is right now, which is incompatible with my lifestyle. So had I believed him, I don't think, we would have been together if I knew what would have transpired after. So.
Yeah. And, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon by saying that my ex-person said to me shortly after we met that when people meet him, they either really like him or they don't. And I was like so caught up. I'm like, why wouldn't anybody like you? Oh, I get it. Because you're an arrogant piece of shit. Got it.
Yeah.
But I didn't figure that out for a minute.
But that, like, can you imagine if somebody says people like me or they don't. Like, why is you strutting and thinking that's a cool thing? Like, yeah, I'm just such, yeah,
for sure. Okay, here's a lesson learned. Candy and I are both wearing glasses. I have a couple more pairs over here. You'll see Candy has all sorts of glasses that she wears, nice, bright, colorful, what have you. Over the years, I remember here she goes. Yes. So over the years, I would go to the eye doctor when I started needing glasses, and I would get my exam, and then I would choose my frames right there in the eye doctor. And it would cost me a good amount of money each time I did
they're
this.
expensive.
A good amount of money. Lesson learned, take that prescription and go elsewhere. You can go to Costco. Yes. You can go online. There are other frames that you can find at those other locations. You do not need to fill that prescription in your doctor's office and be charged like twice as much as you would if you went to one of these other locations.
I don't even think it's twice. I think it's 3 times as much.
Probably. I was being conservative.
Yeah, because I can get these glasses because I get them online. Type in my prescription, and these glasses here, they cost me $53. And they're cute, and they're and I have them, and this is just for like reading the computer. Of course, the trifocals are going to be more, but don't spend $500 for glasses. That's ridiculous.
No.
Go online, put your prescription in, and it'll be so much easier.
So my problem with glasses is I must have my little nose bridge clip thingies because my cheeks are so fat that if I don't, the glasses rest on my cheek and then I get those horrible lines. Candy can get away with that. I cannot. So I always have to find
fat cheeks too.
But I don't know how
it's because I have a big head. I have a big head. And so there's a lot of resistance to the side of my skull and the edge of these glasses. Yeah. So, another little hack. If you have a big head, what I do is I buy sunglass frames. I buy because I don't like small glasses on a big head. I think it needs to be proportional, and I think it's more stylish. So I will get the sunglass frame and just put the reading lens in it. And that's how I get to wear a lot of these cute glasses.
Yeah. So Candy's are a bit cuter than mine because she has a bigger selection to choose from. Mine are pretty similar. But that's my little tip. Find your glasses elsewhere, not the doctor's office.
What else? Oh, you know what? With my kids, limit the TV, limit the screen time. I never allowed my kids to watch TV willy-nilly. And they were 15 when they got cell phones. And I was talking to Yaya recently, and she was saying just over this break, the reason why she thinks that she and her siblings have done well academically is because I never allow them to watch a bunch of TV. And I said yes to books every time. I told them early on, if you ask for a book, I will buy it.
Oh, yeah.
And I recognize that a lot of people don't have that privilege of buying books, but I think library books sometimes can be gross. They give me the ick. But I said, just give me a list of your books and I will buy every single book you want. And that helped promote literacy and reading and things like that. And my son's first word was book. So I think just kind of, you put your money where your heart is, so if I'm saying yes to books, the kids recognize that's important to me.
Yeah.
And I think that helped them. I think that is kind of like a core family value.
But unfortunately, Candy, we see a lot of kids, a lot of families who use the screens as a distraction, so their kids will
Oh my God.
stay
Yeah.
quiet in the restaurant or
Yeah.
stay quiet out
Right.
here or where. And there are other ways, but I know it's an
Yeah.
easy go-to, but it should
Yeah.
not be an understood.
No. And these kids, their attention span is like a hummingbird because, they scrolling and doing stuff and yeah.
And then the tantrums that you see when you're out in public when
Yeah,
mom is like,
oh my God.
let me take the phone.
I had one last week and the baby was like 9 months old. Yeah.
Oh,
ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. What else you got?
I have don't bring work home.
Oh.
I mean, I recognize that my work is different. So because I deal in child abuse, I don't want that in my space. Mm-hmm. And I live close enough to work. If I need to work on the weekend, I will drive to the office and get my work done. But I don't bring that kind of negative, abusive stuff into my space.
Right.
That's something that helps me. And
for me, it was oftentimes I had to do like my documentation when I was home. So I would always try to do that when, kids are asleep and done. So I could just focus and get that done. Because again, we're talking about mental health in kids and could be very challenging. But yeah, if you can separate, I think what you're talking about is like having appropriate work-life balance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's there and this is here. And being able to truly stick to that. Self-care, I think we need to talk about that for a minute. Lesson learned, we need to take care of ourselves, our physical well-being, our mental well-being, in order to then be the best versions of ourselves for the people that depend upon us. So that's a lesson everybody needs to implement.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to. And, whatever hobby it is that you might enjoy, or going for a walk, or, I don't know, singing in the car, whatever it is, please do it so you can, be the best version of yourself for yourself and others.
Yep. And that's a good place to stop.
All righty then.
Yeah. So, thank you for this edition of To Soka. Lessons I've learned. If you have any lessons that you've learned,
would love to share about them
with us on Instagram, and you can email us at twosokapodcast@gmail.com. And pay attention to what life is teaching you. You don't just go through life, you're learning the entire time, even from mistakes.
Yeah, and we learn more from our mistakes than we do our successes. So take those lessons into what you're going to be doing next. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode of Two Sisters of a Certain Age, and we will see you at another time. Bye.
Bye.
No Longer Network.